All right. I'm glad we didn't record all that. All right. I'll call the meeting to order. If everyone would rise for pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That sounds really good with everybody here. Compared to how we did it via Zoom. Okay. Introductory roll call, please.
All right, roll call. We have Vice President Cook,
Yes.
Treasurer Fritz,
Here.
Secretary Thomas.
Yes.
Trustee Dom,
Yes.
Trustee Gayton,
Present.
and Trustee Zimmerman.
Present.
We have a quorum.
And you didn't count me, but that's all
Oh,
right.
I'm sorry.
I was looking up there, I go, I don't think you called any.
President Henning, I was leaving the best for last here, right? In your official capacity.
I'm present.
Wasn't on purpose, John.
It was not.
I was just giving her a hard time the other night that it's like I'm on my way out. They cut down the tree where I usually park, and then they parked heavy equipment there, and then there was something they left out the last week, and now there's this. I can see that I'm on the last lap here. So Sean, if you had a chance to meet, well, you didn't get a chance to meet anybody around the table. Did you meet Pat?
I did not.
It was Pat Fritz.
Let me meet you.
Sean
Pat
Zimmerman.
Fritz.
Kelly, have you met? She's our county liaison. The county board gives as a liaison here, so she's a county board member. And then there's, do you want to meet all of staff now or afterwards?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. That works. All right, we've had roll call, and with that, I'm going to let Sean stand and read the oath.
I, Sean Zimmerman, do solemnly affirm that I will faithfully discharge the duties of office of trustee as a member of the Board of Trustees of Montgomery County Conservation District in accordance with the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Illinois, the Illinois compiled statutes and applicable rules and policies of the County of McHenry, the policies and bylaws governing McHenry County Conservation District to the best of my ability.
Thank you and congratulations. All right, that brings us to public comments. One is our. Would you like to make comments, or are you just? Oh, so you want, we have comments at the end also, if you want to comment afterwards or probably even during, okay? If you'd like to pass at this time, thank you. Brings us to new business. Anyone have anything from the agenda that we have coming Tuesday night that they'd like to discuss at this time? All right. Okay, with that, we'll move on to 6.2, which is a review of the project scope of Lions Prairie Marsh and the request proposals. Ed, or I guess Elizabeth is leading this.
Well, tonight, actually, I'm going to turn it over to Ed Collins, our Director of Land Preservation and Natural Resources. We also have Gabe Powers here, who is our Natural Resources Management Special Projects. And what we promised to do, we did approve us to go out to get proposals on this project. We wanted to share with you the scope that we envision to send out and to make sure that the board is in concurrence with that. So let me turn it over to Brad and Gabe and help describe the scope.
You have the RFP for you, and hopefully you've had a chance to look at it. Just to refresh everyone's memory, staff did a great amount of in-house research for this. Came to the conclusion that given the scope of the project and the different jurisdictions that the project falls under, it would be best to have a formal RFP that could give us more information that would assist the board in making a decision about a direction to go. So we have brought that back to you in draft form tonight. We think Gabe worked a long time on it, as well as many of the other staff members in natural resources. I think we have a good RFP. I just want to highlight 2 or 3 of the main points to that. We have included within the RFP, which will be going out to prospective contractors who might send an RFP in to see if they want to do it. We have included a brief history of the Algonquin Dam some of you may be wondering why that would be in a document. The Algonquin Dam has a lot of influence on water levels in that portion of the box, so we want to make sure that anyone responding to the RFP was aware of that and knew that that was an important component to take into consideration during planning. We also have asked any of the firms that may respond to the RFP to give us a minimum of 3 options. Now, there could be more, and I suspect some recipients may propose more than the 3 options, but we wanted 3 at a minimal. One would be to return the peninsula at Alliance to its pre-1939 conditions, and if you are wondering what that is, there's a set of air photos in there that will help you track the changes there over time. We also would like them to include returning that peninsula to its pre-2014 conditions, and there is an air photo that covers that. And as always, whenever you have a project of this scope, there is a no action option in there as well. What will happen if no work is done? Another key component of this is that I ask to identify key stakeholders and stakeholder groups, and to understand what their issues may be and what their concerns are as they prepare the RFP. So I want to make sure everyone was aware of those highlights. And I'd also like to turn over to Gabe to see if there's anything you'd like to add.
That's a summary.
So we are here for your discussion, direction on whether we should send the RFP out after the meeting or if there are changes you'd like to have.
Question.
Go ahead.
Is the Algonquin Dam downstream from the Lions Marsh?
Yeah.
Okay. So in that historical summary, which I thought was very interesting, I think the dam was built in 1939.
Yeah, about that time period is correct. It was right before the second one.
If the dam was built in 39, does it make sense to restore the peninsula to its pre-1939 status? Because you're not going to remove the dam. So whatever impact the dam has is a given. And I'm not sure if that's how practical it would be, to ask for an option to restore this to what it was before the dam existed. So that was just sort of a question.
Sure.
And
One of the things we really hope to have in hand as part of this RFP is a much better understanding of how the dam has impacted flows over time. So using the pre-1939 conditions as one of the things they would look at, we hope will give us a better handle on how the dam and the manipulation of water over the years has impacted water flows and erosion in that section of the stream. So that's really why we put it in there.
And who controls the dam?
Steve, you did a bunch of, did more research on it than I did.
I'll answer that for the first one. If you go to the page 8, it kind of highlights the Bill's question. Shows 1939, 1954, 1988, 1999, and 2017. So the reason it is 1939 is just to show the footprint of what the peninsula looked like, and then the recession over time. So they don't have to necessarily say 1939 is the condition, but that was one of the options we could evaluate different courses of action. So they may come back and say 1939 isn't feasible, but 1988, for example, could be. So that would answer the first question. And I believe the state Division of Waterways current operator, based on my knowledge.
So there's a major scope of the project. Because if they don't control it, right, you can restore it all you want, it's gonna end up in the same way, right?
Well,
If they don't operate it.
the dam is certainly one influence. We know that armoring on the other side of the river by Lake County Forest Reserve has had some impacts. There's just a lot of unknowns that we want to make sure we have handled before we enter into a project or the board through something like that. So this is the RFP should yield a lot of that information. I hope.
How many stakeholders are there in this project?
That's a great question. There are certainly voters are one. There are individuals who are interested in birding and in kayaking that are another component. The stakeholders would be identified as part of the RFP, and I'm sure we don't have all of them.
Okay, I didn't know. I know there was gonna be more people researching into that and checking into it. I didn't know if we had a partial list at this point in time, and how many that would be.
Yeah, we will turn over any known groups that we have to whoever the RFP is awarded to as a starting point.
Okay.
But we want to make sure that we have those interests up front as the study goes forward.
So you're looking for, I mean, we approved going forward with this previously, right? So you're just updating us.
Right, and this was, we said we would bring back the wording, so that there was anything you wanted to change, we would do that. If not, we will let the RFP after the board meeting.
Sounds good. Good with that? All right, thank you. Would either of you like to comment at this time?
No, the only thing I was gonna say was when you're talking about the erosion, it's a lot different now than in 1939 because they've got wake boats on the river now. They create one heck of a wake. And if you go right across the river to the Lake County Preserve, they put riprap in right on a curve where it's going to be a lot of erosion, and it's taking care of it perfectly. And the Fox Waterway Agency at one time, I thought, was thinking of using geotubes to take care to stop the erosion and stop any future erosion. So that's what I think you have to look at, is not only fixing what's there, but to stop it from happening again.
If I might say it, what brought this up originally was the fact that all your publications say that you're stewards of the land that you control, that you own. And we don't see any stewardship being done in that area. There's no controlled erosion, there's no riprap, there's everything that is recommended by the Fox Waterway Agency to prevent erosion. There's nothing there to do it. And like Ralph says, in recent years, it's been the wakeboard boats, but it's also been a number of flood events that, that's nature. What are you gonna do? But once that base of the land has been hit so hard by the erosion of the waves, once you get a high water and everything just starts floating down. So I really don't think it's the organic dam that has that much to do with it. In recent years, it's been more the wakeboard boats. And I don't know what you're gonna do. I mean, you can't do anything about that. You try to regulate them, but it's not gonna work. It's not gonna fly. So the main thing is to have some shoreline erosion protection put in that area. But you don't want to do it since, the peninsula's gone and a lot of it, I mean, it's like islands out there now, where it used to be all land. When I talked to Ron Barker, when he was the director of the Fox Waterway Agency, he proposed doing something similar to what they did on the Grass Lake, where they used geotubes to reestablish the land that had eroded. I don't know what that's going to take this day and age, but that's what needs to be done. Something needs to be done to cover all the dredged material out of the river itself, because it's all eroded into the river, and the river just gets shallower and shallower.
Well, they just put the shallow buoys out there today.
But it's something's got to be done if you want to really call yourselves stewards of the land.
You have a question, but I should have, since we aren't in public comments, I should have had each of you at least state your names for the record. So could each of you just state your name and
Ralph Wenzel.
Tom Fernstrom.
Okay, thank you. Now Bill, go ahead and ask your question.
Well, I know on the chain lakes, for example, when the water level is at a certain height, and I don't know if it's the sheriff or the Coast Guard or no wake zone is declared, and it's pretty seriously enforced. I don't know if that supervisory structure applies to the river. Are there
Yes, it
conditions when they put a no wake zone?
Yes, the IDNR calls the shots on that, and the Fox Waterway Agency puts out the information to people to let them know some they can see paving the lakes, B being the upper river and C being the lower river. And they close and open it or no wake boating at various times. There's been some problems with that too, because getting that information out to people isn't too good, and sort of get everybody along the river yelling at people that are going open throttle, and they're causing so much more erosion because the river's so high. But there was one year that they didn't go between no wake and closed. They just stayed closed until the river level and all of waterway got down to a certain level, and they went over. And that worked great. This, no wake level doesn't work out that way.
And I presume that the level is controlled to some extent by the dam.
Yes.
So whatever management principles they have controlling the dam definitely have an impact on the shoreline and so forth and so forth.
And the quick peaks gone down, I mean, the Stratton Dam actually is where they base what their decisions are and no wake or closed or whatever. But they've been doing a pretty good job calling those numbers based on the water level. But getting people, to enforce it is next to impossible.
Well, if you write tickets, that generates money, so it generates money for the Fox Water Agency or whomever.
Yeah, but you gotta have the people out there on the waterway writing the tickets, and they don't go out on the waterway with no weights.
Yeah, McHenry County does our part of the river and Lake County does the other part of the lake. So McHenry County, they have one boat or two boats going up down a river in a 17-mile area. So
Well, I know if you're on the chain and you go past the boat that is just going no wake, slow, and they'll flash lights at you and tell you that the sheriff is around the corner, so you might want to slow down. So I think the word gets out. If tickets are being written, the word gets out.
it's not that bad. Most of the people, 90% of the people follow the rules.
Yes.
But you can tell, because they'll do it on the internet or on your phone,
Yes.
when it opens up, I mean,
And
you
all
can
of a
tell
sudden,
boats going, boom, they're off like a bat out of hell.
Okay, anyone have anything else? Or okay, looks like we're gonna be able to move ahead. Thank you.
Oh, there was one thing.
Oh, go ahead.
I think in that area, the state of Illinois says there's an endangered species. So I don't know if that's gonna interfere with any plan to do anything. We can't find out what the endangered species is. They're gonna play it because we go off trying to trap it, whatever it is. I think that's a silly rule, but you guys probably would be able to find out.
Ed might be able to find it.
Yeah, the reference is probably to the species in Lions Prairie. And yeah, we do have listings of them and we monitor some. So that would be taken into any plan related to erosion.
Yeah, but I think they were there before the erosion started, so.
Absolutely. The other thing just bear in mind is remember that a good portion of this is in Lake County, not in McHenry County, even though the district owns it.
Well, that's what has been frustrating for us, because Lake County did all the riprap at their shoreline. Of course, if you want to do it on one side of the river, it's gonna cause problems on the other side of the river. But McHenry County Conservation District never protected its land. So,
Well, I think they're in charge of the Lake County part anyhow.
yes, they are.
Well, hopefully this study gives us some answers. All right, thank you, everyone. Then I'm gonna move on to temporary license agreement with the environmental defenders of McHenry County for Kishwaukee River corridor clearing and maintenance. Look, I believe Pat Lawler is
She
on with
is,
us.
I see her as a guest as well this evening, and I'm gonna just start, and then I'm gonna turn it over to Val Seiler, who has done a great effort to put this temporary license agreement together. Many months ago, a year ago, it's been actually, that the Petawakish group came to the board requesting access to be able to clear the area. And at that time, we were looking at ways, and we made a commitment that there were certain things that the district needed for that to happen. We talked with council and then went back. Petawakish with the insurance indemnification then became a program under the Environmental Defenders of McHenry County. So this agreement that you're seeing this evening, or we're going to talk about, is with us developing an agreement with the Environmental Defenders of McHenry County as the other entity that would be responsible for all the provisions, the providing the indemnification and the insurance on this. A temporary license agreement was drafted. Val Seiler did that. It went off to legal counsel for review. And then I'm going to have Val this evening just kind of highlight for you some of the critical components that we talked about to be incorporated into the agreement. And the purpose was, even though we don't have the agreement back this evening, we wanted to keep this moving. And I guess what we'd like to see, if the board is agreeable to the terms, and then staff can work with council to get a document in final form, then the board would be agreeable for myself and staff working then to volley that over to the environmental defenders and get their sign off, and then bring it back for final approval at our board. So that's kind of the pathway I'm seeing this. So Val, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, and I will see if I can pull up the screen.
Yeah,
here.
so Elizabeth's got a PowerPoint of just maybe some key elements of this agreement that we put together. So it was put together just basically based on our understanding of what the goal was for them to accomplish for clearing and maintenance of the Kishwaukee River corridor. And then, just in consultation with staff, we put together this agreement. I talked to Andrew Payne at Tressler LLP, and there's always some room for improvement, maybe tightening up or straightening some of the insurance and indemnification issues. But otherwise, I think what we put together is going to be pretty close to what we have available to share with the defenders. So we basically looked at the area of property that the district owns between Mill Stream Road and county line. So we own a lot of land, but not all of the land along the river in that stretch. There we go. So
Trying to work through these two screens here.
So that's the area that we're trying to make available for this maintenance and clearing to take place. The agreement is it's called temporary. We've got it set up for a year in duration, and then it would automatically renew from year to year unless either party wanted to cancel it.
When you actually have it in there, that anybody, either side could cancel it in any time of 30 days notice.
30 days notice, it could be terminated. Otherwise, it would go for a year and then renew for a year automatically. So the project that we defined in this agreement is written there pretty closely to the language in the agreement. It's that the defenders propose to clear fallen trees, branches, and other debris from the Kishwaukee River. That includes certain areas of real estate owned by the conservation district. So that's the primary issue and the project at hand. And so part of the agreement, in granting a license, we have to decide what are the licensed premises, and we're trying to define that. So those green areas on the map show the areas that the property that the district owns along the Bushwalkie between Mill Stream Road and County Line Road. And what we've tried to define there is for what we want to make available. I mean, this is very focused. We thought it takes a little bit more time to think through the what ifs and the details, but instead of just having a simple do this in this area, we really wanted to make it pretty focused so that everybody knows what's okay and what's not. So we basically try to define stream bank to stream bank on property that the district owns. Of course, we can't grant rights for them to do anything on what we don't own. So it's just the river from stream bank to stream bank of the main channel during low flow conditions. So we say main channel because there's areas where there are some deviations and grades in there. So we're saying, well, let's pick the main channel is what we're defining right now. And the time of access would be low, what we would consider low flow conditions. So to make this work, we felt that we needed to have some communication about what they're going to be doing and where they're going to be doing it and who's going to be involved, so that, every time that they would plan a project or a work day to go out there, they would send a request, and there's actually a notice form that's attached for the convenience of their use if they want to say, we're going to be on these parcels on this day. Here's what we're going to be doing, and here are the list of people that are going to be there. So then we have a record that we know, for instance, if our police are out and about and they see somebody out there, hey, what are you doing out here? Well, they have a reason. Otherwise, if they aren't part of this project, we know they shouldn't be there. So it's just a way to help maybe over time, just not that we want to be so restricted, we just need, it's a large area, an expansive area, and we've got other projects and programs that may evolve over time out there, agricultural interests, hunting programs. So we really want to know who's out there doing what and when. So there would be notice prior to every access. And that would have to be approved. That we wouldn't unreasonably withhold approval, but it would give us a chance to go check with whoever we need to about certain agricultural or hunting activities or something in the area that may make that request maybe not a good idea at that time. Again, clearly, we said low flow conditions, so we want to make it a safe situation for them. So as far as we're concerned, we're saying no access at all during flood stage. So that's got to be absolutely no access is authorized during the flood stage. Also, to make it focused, that what we're saying here is this is a license to do certain work and part of the project, where the project is being clearing trees, fallen and debris and limbs and stuff like that. So that's the only reason that this is being granted at this time. It's not for recreation, it's for work of this project. Of course, they can use canoes and kayaks in association with this use, but they can't use that. They can't, it's not just, this license is not for purely recreational use, it's for the work of completing this project or working on this project. It mentions specifically that any recreational use that's authorized by the conservation district will happen in a separate action by the board, where the board decides that they want to open this up or do what the public as a recreational corridor if and when they decide to do that. But for now, no recreational use is part of this. And in addition, we thought of some of the what ifs that had come up in the conversations. I think Elizabeth had is that they had thought about maybe doing some incidental or tangential things such as muscle surveys and things like that. Those types of things, we're open to listening to that, but that's not part of what this is. This is those requests would be handled on a case-by-case basis based on whatever specific project or activity they would like to do. Ingress and egress is an important issue for a lot of people at the district there, because we have no, our general use ordinance is very clear that to come on district property, there's no access except through designated access points or through a grant of a license or something. This license only gives them access stream bank to stream bank. So getting to that that corridor. They are probably going to be coming through the river through permissions gained from other property owners. So, or I know they have other launch and access points that they've gotten upstream from our property. So they'll be using those areas or other areas, but right now, we can't, without their specific request saying, can we get on here or there? We haven't decided that any place is a good place to gain access to what we own there, because it's just so extensive floodplain. There's really not any good road or quick, easy in and out. So some of those things will get worked through a permission and request process where the parties will get together and they say, well, you know, we'd like to do this, maybe we can get over here. And so it will require, send us your plan, send us your map, and let staff have a chance to review it and make sure it's safe and appropriate. And then once, and yeah, it's possible that some of these access routes that are outside the stream bank may become, if it's approved, it could be part of this as an addendum, become part of the license agreement going forward, where they don't have to, once it's been approved, they don't have to maybe ask for permission to gain access at Warren Road, for instance, or whatever. And then just some, I mean, there's a lot in this, but just some of the key things that we thought were important to mention were obviously what they're doing has some inherent danger associated with it. When you think of moving water, canoes, chainsaws, those types of things, you know. So basically, access at your own risk. That's basically got to be definitely understood, and those are the things that Andrew Payne is going to be looking at to just make sure that everything and the indemnifications and insurance requirements are covered, to make sure that that's all in order. We're emphasizing personal protective equipment as needed for whatever work they're doing. So safety measures are emphasized here. We've addressed what the specifications of what they're trying to do should look like. So we just said in the agreement, we've said that, you know, a minimum of 12 foot wide through this river corridor should be a reasonable goal. There's a lot of the debris and what they would call debris or trees or logs and things actually are beneficial or you know, things that have a natural resource value for habitat and things like that. So we really aren't looking to have it sterilized, you know, just make it, open it up just enough for some possible future use. There's some issues in there about repair and restoration in case there's any unintended damage to the property, obviously. And then, as I mentioned, insurance and indemnification requirements. As I mentioned, it's a 1-year agreement. If approved, that would renew automatically without further action for successive 1-year terms, and it may be terminated by either party with 30 days written notice. And as Elizabeth said, our legal counsel is wrapping up their review of it. I talked to Andrew Payne about it. He thought it was in pretty good shape, but wants to maybe update some of the language related to indemnification and insurance. I mean, one of the tricky things about it is how the insurance and indemnification translates to the people on the river doing the work. So our agreements with the defenders, obviously, and then they're going to have certain certificates of professional liability insurance. But you know, if you're an insurance company, you're trying to make those insurance coverages as focused as possible. So they're not going to extend coverage to maybe people that aren't members of their organization or maybe not directly connected. So we'll make sure those connections and T's and I's, T's are crossed and I's are dotted to make sure that it translates as best as possible to the people that may have a claim or have some issue on the water. Yeah, so after it gets back from Andrew, we think it's going to be in good shape. If the board feels it's in some, you know, is in reasonable shape, we'll share it with the vendors and hopefully be able to put something together soon. Any questions?
So I must have this, I always thought that they got to get more permission than to paddle through it.
Yeah, this is
So all they're going to do is clear it and then they're not going to do nothing.
Well, this agreement that's on the table right now is for clearing and maintenance.
Right, but I mean, why would somebody go through all the work of clearing it if you can't even use it? Because it's gonna, I mean, as, you know, trees die and stuff falls in there. And when we get high water, it fills back up again and.
Well, we're, the staff and Elizabeth leadership have been working towards making those opportunities real for them, but we're not there yet.
Oh.
So it's kind of, it's, you know, those directions and those opportunities are we're striving to achieve that simultaneously, but we can't roll it out today and say, you know, we're trying to move this forward because I know there's been some interest on their part for getting out there to do this. In spite of the fact that step 2 is not quite there yet. So.
No, I think your point was we had discussed with them when they came into the phased approach. And so some of the areas as far as public access launching and what is necessary to provide under the Americans with Disabilities Act, land that the district currently has being actually available to do anything we just don't have yet. So this is a longer term piece, but this allows the necessary clearing and the maintenance. And then if they're launching further in Marengo or at the county line and they're just coming through, you know, to do their clean and sweep, you know, but we're not having any recreational or promoting a recreational because then that adds another layer that we're just not there yet.
Yeah, and you know, this is something that's evolving. It's a new thing for us. I mean, we have open fingering through the member sync. So this is maybe a similar thing. At some point, it will evolve to that point, or maybe not. But it, you know, it's a step in that direction. And this is a focused agreement. It's a temporary license group, basically for like construction. You know, like we would do for somebody, a contractor to come out and do some work on district property. So it's a unique document. The public access and recreational corridor there, that's a separate act of the board where the board decides this is a conservation area and this is a feature of the conservation area that the public can use. So it's not really just specific to the defenders. It's a bigger announcement or resolution that would, as I see it, taking place for that to happen.
So I think it's a good faith first step to a conclusion that isn't clear yet, but I mean, we've had people come in and request that we look at the issue of the Kishwaukee, and we responded to their request in a timely fashion to me. And so I commend you all for putting this together, and we've worked with the defenders in the past, and this is another opportunity to work with them and to work with a subgroup of people who then will be supporters of the district. So I say good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, thank you. But in a perfect world, everything would come together at the same time. You know, this is a step. I mean, there's a lot of will, and there's a way. We're just not quite there yet. But I don't think Elizabeth and the leadership would have me and the others in our legal forces, you know, put so much energy into this if we didn't plan to answer past questions. Why would they? You know, it's like we aren't doing this just for exercise. So hopefully there'll be a conclusion, but we can't absolutely say that right at this point.
What else? By Sean.
It's a pretty long stretch. You know, getting into this agreement, do you have any initial expectations at all? We did.
We don't.
We don't have any. We just, it looks good to.
Well, I think this is a live meeting probably. Yeah. So really, we're not putting any demands on them to do any level of work. If they took this and really didn't do too much, we wouldn't be calling them and saying, why aren't you doing more? We wouldn't be doing that. So it's really, and I don't think the staff is recognized from the get-go. This is a noble idea, but staff does not have the capacity to do it ourselves, to go out there and make this an open recreational corridor. So like on the Nipperson, for instance, as far as I know, when a tree falls, it's not on district property, it's not, we don't
Right.
do anything about it. So this is a private third-party group that's interested in making this happen, and we think that's great. Whatever they can do to make this happen, although we've not, put any baseline of, they have to do at least a minimum. We just said, don't do any more than you need to.
Of course.
But
Right, yeah, I wasn't, my question wasn't geared more towards, there was, a goal or expectation in terms of, it was more of, what would a bright picture be like, hey, if this worked out?
it could be cool. I mean, there's a lot of great ideas that have been floated about that this area might be, right for what is it, 306 grant? What is Ed?
There's an Army Corps of Engineers grant that is tied to clearing navigational waterways.
So,
It could be tied to it at a future date.
so,
Okay, yeah, that's a.
but no, you're right, it's a huge stretch. And I don't know what the recreational users actually want to do. I mean, I think they just maybe don't intend to go all the way from 7 miles, or whatever it is. They may just want to do little stretches and they'd be happy with that. But,
Okay.
But no, it's a good observation.
That's it. Thank you.
We don't know.
Someone else, a question? Oh, looks good. Good first phase. Thank you, Dale. With that, I'll move on to Hebron Drainage District Intergovernment Agreement. And there's not a lot to report there, I don't believe. They've received it and they've, well, Chris,
Yeah, we haven't had a meeting with the try to review, it's in review with meeting right now. Should have an answer, I think, by our next meeting.
Right, not next Tuesday, but May's meeting.
May's, correct.
Right, anybody else have anything else to add to that? Good. All right, executive director's report.
Just a few things here. I want to thank everyone for attending the Conservation Congress. We had a great turnout on that evening with delegates, a lot of great information that was shared. We are following up. The foundation actually is making phone calls to all the attendees and delegates to connect with them. We are also then sending out a thank you letter and a recap of the Conservation Congress conversations, the congressional sessions. So there's one more this week. They had 2 last week in that participation. Some of you have participated in those sessions, and it's been just great feedback. Everybody's been energized. Really appreciate having the opportunity to share their thoughts and ideas. And we'll have some information to which to work from and to plan accordingly going forward. The FAP 420, we were at the county board through many committee meetings, transportation, then planning, environmental development, and then on to the committee of the whole, and then the county board last Tuesday night. It did pass. It did receive enough votes, so we will now begin our outreach with our state elected officials. We thank the county, Chairman Wheeler, and all the county board members for their support with being able to protect and transfer the area that really is in district's hands. And I have to compliment Ed was there. He did a great job in following up some of the details of actually what the management costs, because that was a concern that was raised, is how much is it going to cost the district to pick up the 110 acres. And when we looked at it in the size of what Glacial Park is in the area that we surround, all but one side, it's de minimis, but he broke down those costs. And so I think that was very helpful. So appreciate that. Earth Day is this Saturday at Prairie View. So if you're coming out, we do that cooperatively with the environmental defenders of Montgomery County. And that'll be from 12 to 4. And we're supposed to have lovely weather on Saturday. Definitely it will feel like spring, not snow like we've had just a week here. And then next Tuesday night, we have our, as you know from the reviewing the agenda, we have our Conservation Champion Awards. And then we also will be recognizing former board member Lynn Campbell, and we're going to do a reception afterwards outdoors. So if you're planning to see, it should hopefully be nice weather, and we'll do that immediately following the meeting. And that is all I have.
Very good. Anyone else have anything they'd like to bring up? public comment? All right, with that, is there, who's Stephanie monitoring?
Yes, there's no public.
The public is wanting to comment. All right. With that, I would entertain a motion to go into an executive session in probably 10 minutes or so. Ray has the motion. Is there a second? Pat has a second. Roll call, please. Sure, go right ahead, Ray. That's a good idea.
Absolutely.
Consideration of a motion to go into executive session pursuant to 2C1 personnel, 2C2 collective bargaining, 2C21 review of closed session minutes, and 2C5 lease purchase of real estate of the Open Meetings Act 5 ILCS 120/1.
Thank you very much. I forget that all the time.
All right.
And Ray catches me. on this.
That is awesome. He's doing great. All right. Here we go. Trustee Zimmerman.
Aye.
Trustee Gate.
Yes.
Trustee Dom. Trustee Thomas.
Yes.
Treasurer Fritz.
Yes.
Vice President Cook.
Yes.
And President Henning.
Yes.
Okay,
With that, we will leave this meeting and go into executive session. When we come back out of executive session, we won't be taking any action, so there's nothing there afterwards. So with that, we'll get out of this one and go on to the next one.
All right, we're back in open session on April 21st, and it is 8:04 p.m.
Okay, with that, I need roll call.
Roll call, okay. We are back. Vice President Cook,
Yes, I'm here.
Treasurer Fritz,
Here.
Secretary Thomas.
Yes.
Treasurer Don, Trustee Don,
Yes.
Trustee Gayton,
Yes.
Trustee Zimmerman, and then President Henning.
Present, so everybody's here, and now I can take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Linda and Sean, you want to? Okay, there you go, Linda and Sean. Roll call, please.
Okay, President Henning,
Yes.
Vice President Cook,
Yes.
Treasurer Fritz.
Yes.
Secretary Thomas.
Yes.
Trustee Don.
Yes.
Trustee Gayton.
Yes.
And Trustee Zimmerman.
Yes.
And we are adjourned.
8:04 p.m.
Thank you for sure.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Hope you're well.
Thank you. I appreciate it.